It's time to ditch the excuses. Get up, get out, and shut the f*** up. This is the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast.
Everyone, this is Claims Adjusters Success by Adjusting to Six Figures, the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast. What this is a podcast that is dedicated to the members of our Claims Adjusters Success Network Facebook group. This is a group that's comprised of goal-driven and forward-thinking insurance adjusters, ranging from those that are working directly with insurance carriers, independent adjustment firms, and policyholders. All types of insurance adjusters. We do cater more towards the independents like myself. If you're not familiar with what an independent insurance adjuster is and you're just a fan of the podcast, this particular episode may be a little bit interesting to you, but you may struggle to relate. If you're interested in becoming an independent insurance adjuster or joining the insurance industry, it's definitely an interesting podcast to listen to. We're going to be doing these a whole lot more. Now, this episode and these episodes of Claims Adjuster Success are all about our members. Here, we take 5 of the recently raised struggles of our members inside of our Facebook group, and we tackle them one at a time. So if you're an insurance adjuster that's struggling to get into our industry, go to facebook.com/successful adjusters, one word, become a member, and let us know exactly what you're struggling with. One more time, that's facebook.com/successful adjusters, one word, become a member, and let us know how we can help you get to the next level of your career as an independent insurance adjuster. All right, guys. So, like I said, we're going to be doing these episodes a little bit more because we get a lot. We've got a pretty active Facebook group, great people coming in there. It's a Facebook group that's different from the other ones that are out there. You know, we moderate them pretty well, but we try to keep the culture that's inside of these groups a certain way. You know, I remember when I first got started, not even when I first got started, let's take it further back. When I first heard about this, when I first heard about independent insurance adjusting, it was while I was bartending. I was bartending at a Wyndham hotel, and we had a storm come through. And, you know, this hotel or this bar that I was bartending at, it was inside of a hotel. So we would often get, there was a convention center as well. So we would get these groups of people that would come in, and you know, we could get pharmaceutical reps. You know, it could be a financial services convention, things like that. So we get a lot of these groups that come in, and I would be the bartender. So I'd meet a lot of these people, and you know, I'm a bartender, so I'm going to be social, get to know people, and you know, listen to them, you know, bitch, moan, and complain about whatever they have going on in their life. So I would meet a lot of these people, and occasionally you meet some pretty good people, and they try to tell you about what they do. And because you're a good listener, they innately believe that you would be good at what they do. And, you know, I would get people that would offer, you know, give me insight about what they do and say that, hey, this could be something that you would be good at. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, you know, whatever. And it really no job offer really resonated with me until we had a storm come through and we had these guys coming in. And I say guys because legitimately, I think every single one of them was a male. So they were coming in and sitting at the bar. And if you're an independent adjuster or you've been in the insurance industry for more than just the adjustment industry for more than a little bit, and you know about CAT deployments, you know what catastrophe deployments are, then you may already be able to picture this. If you're not at that level, it might be hard, but I'm sure you can imagine. So you have these adjusters, these independent, these freelance insurance adjusters that are out on deployment. So what that basically means is they're away from their home and they're accepting work outside of an area that is where they live, and odds are they're making really good money doing that. So these guys are coming in, they have a room at the hotel, this hotel that I'm working at, and now at the end of their day, they've banged out, they've inspected and submitted, or whatever the case is, they've been working all day. They're making a ton of money. How much money, varies, but varies on how much work they're turning in, the companies that they're working with. But odds are they wouldn't be away from their home making, dog shit pay. So they're working all day. They're at their hotel, which happens to have a bar connected to it. So um, some of these people, some of these guys would come down to the bar and they'd sit with me and they are blowing off some steam. In other words, they are getting fucked up. So I would sit and talk to them and get to know each other. Now now me and the people that would come down there, we had a little bit of common ground. I come from a little bit of a construction background, so they're property adjusters. So we kind of have that common ground where we understand our way around a piece of drywall. And they're coming in and they're telling me about all this stuff, and just like anybody else, they mention all the money that they make, that they're making really good money doing it. And I'm thinking, man, that's cool. That's you, and who knows exactly how much embellishing is involved, how much exaggeration is involved, and so they tell me all of that. And I remember after a few weeks, it might have been like a week or two, maybe 3 weeks of them hammering this in, I finally found myself in a position where I did some research and I looked it up online. I did a Google search to figure out, is what they're saying legitimate? Is that real? Can you really possibly go away from home for a short amount of time and be able to make $100,000? Because if there's any sort of legitimacy behind that, I really should investigate it. And so I looked it up online, and then lo and behold, yes, everything I found, it was like confirmation bias run amok. Everything that I pulled up in a Google search confirmed this. So I find myself back behind the bar. Now I'm starting to ask more serious questions. And I remember a uh, a, a man's name was Jamie. Jamie, he was working for Pilot and he went to Clemson. That's all I know about him. He said, "You know what? You should." I raised a question to him like, "Hey, man, what do I need to know to get into this?" And he said, "Well, you know what? Let me get someone. He doesn't like talking about it, but let me get somebody that I work with to come down and talk to." And he brings this guy down. I don't remember his name. All I remember is strangely, he didn't like talking to people about this industry. And when he sat down, he was very, very, very reserved. Um, he really wouldn't share very much about it. And so, even to this day, I owe a little bit of I owe a lot to this guy Jamie and somebody else who was there right before, because it was these two guys that really got me looking at this career, this business. The guy that came down that was supposed to tell me different things, he really didn't share anything with me. Um, so the reason why I bring that story up is because this industry that we're in, for some reason, it's very reserved in different ways. And not everyone that's in it are very receptive to others that want to get into it, which to me is very strange. I would want, as the founder of Just University, I want to get as many people in this business as I possibly can. Not everyone is going to succeed. Not everyone's going to succeed in any business. But there's no reason for me to keep people from discovering it. Because, like me, that person may find a lot of success in it. And that success is going to bless a lot of people. It's going to improve their own personal life. It's going to improve the life of everyone that's around them. Why wouldn't I get these people involved? But nevertheless, that's not the personality type for everyone that's out there. Now, that long story, I connect that to the Facebook group here because we try, me and my team and I, try to keep it so that the people that are inside of this group are very welcoming to people that are um, already involved in the business, very welcome to people that are new, recently in the industry, and people that are on the fence and thinking about it, that we're welcoming to all walks. We've had not people join that had no intention of becoming an independent insurance adjuster and just had questions to pose to insurance adjusters. Even those people want to keep an open mind to everyone. So that is the core principle of our Facebook group. And I truly think that that's why our group is the number one group for on Facebook for independent insurance adjusters. So in these episodes, we're going to talk a lot. We'll have varying topics here. These could be topics that are high level. These could be topics that are very, very low, very, very cater much more to the newer people or the people that are on the fence. So one of the big questions that we have, and I'm picking this one because this is probably the number one question that's asked, no matter what. Ever since I've found myself in a position where I can listen to other aspiring independent freelance insurance adjusters at scale, the number one question that I hear, that we hear time and time again in our group and other groups, it's the number one question that's on the minds of everyone. It's how do I find work? How do I find work as an independent insurance adjuster? Or it could just be, how do I find work as an insurance adjuster? Now, as a general insurance adjuster, what I mean by that is just an insurance adjuster that's going to collect a, W-2 salary, maybe company car and all that sort of stuff, which that egg is a whole lot easier to crack than the independent side. That egg's much easier to crack because it's a much smaller pool. It's a much smaller pond to fish out of. Now, if you are looking to find yourself getting a job as a normal insurance adjuster, there are insurance companies out there that will knowingly hire you with no experience. They'd rather hire you with less experience because that would mean that, guess what? They're going to pay you less. They'll do all the training, so you're not going to have any of these bad habits or any of these different habits that you carried over from another job, and they're going to train you the way that they think that you should be trained, and they're going to pay you minimal for it. So it's a lot easier there. You write up a regular BS resume and that's it. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what past experience that you have. Now, the independent side, it's a little bit more tricky than that. So finding work is different than how you would find work if you were looking just for a W-2 job, if you were looking to become an employee for an insurance company. It's different because you are not an employee. You can't look for work like you would as if you were an employee. That's because now you are a business. And the number one mistake that new adjusters make, that new independents make as they enter this industry is that they conduct themselves like an employee. You need to understand, the newbies out there need to understand that if you become an independent insurance adjuster, we need to focus on that first word, the word independent. And the word independent is just a different way. Strangely, we say independent, but it is just a different way of saying freelance. You are a freelance insurance adjuster. Now, if you are a freelance anything, you are a business. You are a single owner, LLC, perhaps. You are your own show. You're not collecting a paycheck, a W-2 paycheck every other week from somebody else. You are the sole provider. You are the top of the food chain. It is up to you to find the work that's needed in order for you to pay your bills. You're running a business. It might not feel that way. It might not feel like a business because you don't have a storefront. You don't have an HR person. You don't even have payroll. You may not even have an LLC. You might not feel like a business person, but you are a business person. And the first step is to begin conducting yourself like a business. Now, how are you going to find work? You find work by finding clients. What are the expectations that you should have from each client? Those can vary. But here's what you shouldn't have. You should not expect each client of yours to give you a never-ending flow of work. It's not going to happen, especially if you're new. Even if you're experienced, it would be negligent for you to expect one of your clients to be the end-all, be-all, and to give you the most amount of money. That's not how businesses work. Put yourself in the shoes of any other company that needs to obtain clients. Imagine if you're a marketing company. How many clients do you think you should have? 1? 2? You should have as many as possible. So how do you get as many clients as possible? That's through your marketing. You need to get in front of these companies. You get in front of them by figuring out who they are. Now this is a big thing because even at my school, Just University, we have a list of all these companies, over 500 independent adjusting companies to market yourself to. You need to have the largest possible Rolodex, network, directory, whatever. You need to know who your customers are. Now, once you figured out who your customers are, you need to figure out what their pain points are. This is marketing 101. You figure out what their pain points are and you figure out what they are looking for. Because once you figure out what is bothering them and you figure out what they need in order for they to succeed in their business, that is how you will be able to tailor your message in a way that is compelling to them. And now, since you know all of the companies, or you know a large number of potential clients, now you have your directory, you have everyone that you need to market to. You have a very large collection of people that are potential clients. And now you know how to market yourself. You're going to market yourself based on the needs of those companies. And now you can do that at scale. You can do that at scale because you have the message and you have the list. Now you just need to send that message to your list. And once it gets out there, then you just continue to follow up, follow up, follow up. It sounds simple, but the big mistake that people make, especially when they don't have some sort of entrepreneurial background, some sort of business background, is that they think that all they need to do is just put together a general resume, just explaining all the unrelated bullshit that they've done in their life on a 1-page or super condensed 10-page resume and send it off to 1, 2, maybe 3 companies. And then at some point, they're just going to start making the 6 figures that they all heard about. It does not work like that. Could it work like that? Have other people found success in that? Absolutely. But those are unicorns. That's luck. And I've said this time and time again, great businesses are never built on luck. You will never get me to tell anyone that they should base their business on luck. Base your business on odds. What are the odds that you're going to build a successful business while only marketing to 3 separate people or companies compared to 300? What are the odds? Where are the odds in your favor? Obviously, 300. Now, when you market to those 300, maybe you don't get the response that you like. Well, you already had the list, so you didn't do that wrong. Then it comes down to critiquing and finding that message. Maybe you need to add more to that resume. Maybe that resume needs to be more eye-catching. Because remember, there is no shortage of other applicants. There are tons and tons of other applicants that are out there, but you need to stand out. So when your marketing strategy isn't working the way that you like, you don't blame it on the industry. You don't blame it on the other companies. You don't blame it on other people. You blame it on yourself. You need to take full accountability because it is your marketing strategy. And only you hold the key to success in becoming a successful independent insurance adjuster, just like any other business. If you're looking for a real quick, easy answer how to find work, go to Indeed. Go to LinkedIn. And just all you need to do is go there. And it's going to solve all your problems. And you're going to have a super successful business, super successful career. If that's what you're looking for, I'm sorry. That's not the key. That is not the key. That's a part of it. Sure, going to places like Indeed and LinkedIn and Monster and like all these other ZipRecruiter, all these other places. These are just tools for you to use. They're resources and you shouldn't forget about them. But remember, that is not it. That is not the full and complete answer. Now, I'm going to jump over to another question, another struggle. How to be an invaluable resource to IA companies, independent adjusting companies, How to be an invaluable resource to IA companies and be easily employable. Now, that is the kind of more word for word struggle that was brought in to our Facebook group. Now, I wanted to clarify that because it uses a word. Okay, there's two words, two conflicting parts of that question: IA and employable, and I want to expand on that. IA, independent independent adjuster. As I said, IA is a synonym for freelancer. If you are a freelancer, you are not an employee. You can't be both. Either you're working for a company as a freelancer, as a 1099 independent contractor, or you are a W-2 employee. It's two different things. They're taxed differently. Okay. So when someone is using IA and employee in the same sentence, there's something wrong. So if you want to become easily employable, that's going to be different from becoming a invaluable resource for an IA company. So the first step, I would say, understand that these are two separate things. If you want to be a successful independent adjuster, stop thinking like an employee. You are not an employee. You are not looking to be employed. Worst thing I want, personally, as an independent adjuster, is to be employed. I have absolutely no interest in being employed. I am unemployable at this point. As an employee, I will be expected to work within a certain framework. As an employee, I will be expected to appear at certain times, day in and day out. I will be expected to do a lot of different things, and I would have a very hard, difficult time explaining to that employer, I'm sorry, I'm just here to complete a job, and it is up to me to complete that job. I don't need your help. I don't want your help. I'm going to do this my way. If you try to explain that to an employer, you can imagine what will happen next. You're going to get canned. That is because you are a freelancer or a business owner that just found their way into employment, and that's not how it works. So for the sake of this question, we're not going to talk about employment. We are going to talk about becoming an invaluable resource to an IA company. Now, how do you become invaluable? Well, there's no shortage of independent adjusters out there, but there certainly is a shortage of adjusters that are seen as invaluable to any particular IA company. So how do we get there? First, let's explore what the benefits are when you're invaluable. When you are invaluable to an independent adjusting company, you are the person or a person that they will heavily rely on. They will look to you first or very quickly to solve the problems that they have. They don't look at you as a freelancer. They don't look at you as as just some independent contractor that they have out in Oregon. They look at you as a part of their success. They look at you as a resource, someone who they are very, very glad to have in their corner. Now, when you can cultivate that type of relationship with one of these companies, that is the best position to be in. When you're a field property adjuster like I am, one of the best positions that I would repeatedly find myself in is when I would be their number one person, or sometimes even their only person in the territory that I'm in. They would rely on me so heavily that it would be me and just whoever is there to back up when I'm on vacation. And that's it. So I would take 100% of their workflow coming in. Now, that's very dangerous on their part. They should have more people because I might drop them. But for me, it's a fantastic place to be in. And that would be because at that point, now I am invaluable to them. They can't put a number on me because if it were not for me, they would not be making any money in this particular territory. Or perhaps they could if they found somebody else and brought them in, but there'd be a learning curve involved and they wouldn't be as good as me. And they might have to bring two people in and there'd be some inconsistencies there in their work product that they deliver to the insurance company. But they don't need to worry about that problem right now because they have me. And that's what makes me invaluable to them. Now, what made me invaluable in the first place? Number one, I'd always be there. What are the pain points of an independent adjusting company? Where do they struggle? What few things, when it comes to a relationship between an independent adjusting company and an independent adjuster out in the field, what parts of that relationship become more difficult? Where are the inconsistencies? That's what you need to think about. Well, for an independent adjusting company, it's very difficult to find an independent adjuster that is in a particular area and that has good communication. Might sound silly, but that's bottom line. It's difficult to find someone who is going to be prompt with their communication, where they know that if they need a question answered or they need a status or whatever, if they contact you, you're going to contact them right back, that you're going to have the phone on because they're very insecure. These companies are very, very insecure because guess what? Part of the reason why I started Adjuster University was to bring in a new breed of independent adjusters because there's a lot of independents that are out there that are just straight garbage. And they're garbage for the same reasons why I am so good at what I do. Because I am good at the things that they are lacking in. Communication is one of them. Being willing to go that extra mile for them. To be that resource in an area where that company can where that company can now rely on you and depend on you. Become a part of that company's success. Don't think about yourself. Don't think about your own money. Think about what you can do to benefit that company, to push that company closer toward success. Once you find yourself cultivating a relationship with that company that is beyond a business transaction, that is how you find yourself quickly becoming an invaluable resource to that company, and it will pay dividends in the long term. So, the next few questions are very closely related to each other. So, I'm going to rattle them off all at once here. We have, how do I write great estimates, property damage estimates that are comprehensive? We also have, how do I get better at Xactimate? And how to know how to write for property damage repairs. Now, this is obviously a question that is for the people like me, the independent field property adjusters. You're going out, you're looking at a house, you're inspecting damage, and you're going to write up an estimate for the value to repair that damage. Now, and I said at the beginning of this podcast, I had a construction background, a background in home repairs. Now, although I say that, it was very limited. As an independent field property, you're doing all sorts of repairs. I would do retail. Finishing basements and stuff like that. All right. So it was very easy. That was most of my job, doing demo work, but most of my job was refinishing basements and stuff like that. So this was all very new to me. A lot of these repairs are very new. I knew some terminology. I knew some repair processes, but even the repair processes that I knew weren't exactly correct. But as the person that is basically standing in the middle, in between a policyholder and a paycheck, it was my duty to understand how to properly make these repairs so that I could properly estimate for them. So how do I figure that out? Not only how do I figure that out, but how do I use a piece of software to create the estimate and make sure, and here's the trick, and to make sure that the policyholder is getting everything that they're owed, and to make sure that the estimate that I'm preparing, that the insurance company is also ultimately going to make that they're ultimately most likely going to issue a payment based off of. And how do I get better at it? How do I get better at that actual job where I'm more efficient with with using that particular software? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. You will never be able to write a good, accurate repair estimate if you don't know the actual repair. That sounds incredibly simple and a no-brainer, but here's the big problem. And although I have said time and time again, I'm not team insurance. I don't believe that every insurance company is right. In fact, I have been witness to more unethical behavior by insurance companies than I even care to talk about. But that being said, it is not all the fault of the insurance carrier. It is also the fault of the insurance adjuster, people just like me. And the reason is because people find themselves in positions, whether it's the insurance company's fault or their own, where they're put in a position where they need to know how to properly make a repair in order for them to make a proper estimate. But they don't. They don't know how to do that. All they know is what they've heard about in the past of how to make certain repairs. They've never made the repair themselves. In fact, they don't know how to make the repair if they had to do it themselves. They're just going off of what they were told. And it is extremely, extremely difficult, damn near impossible to get this job done accurately if that is how you're writing estimates. Imagine this. Imagine if you went to the doctor for a surgery and you found out that your doctor has been doing surgery for a short while, year, maybe 2 years. Now, your doctor didn't go to med school, though. In fact, your doctor is not entirely sure how to do the proper way to do surgery, but is self-taught. Although there has been some cases where they've figured out that the surgery didn't go well and they had to assign a different surgeon and issues like that. How confident would you be? Would you think that that's legal? Would you think that that's okay? Because if it's surgery, if it's a doctor, of course that's not legal. You can't do that. You need training. You need a lot of training. You need documentation behind that training, or else you can't do it. But when you're a property adjuster working for an insurance company, you sure can. So you need to understand, if you can't make the repair yourself inside your home, if you don't have any interest in working with a construction company and doing all these repairs yourself, by all means, you don't have to do that. That's what makes this business a little bit more easier than becoming a doctor. But you need to understand, there is no reason why you can't figure out how to make repairs in the age of the internet. Look it up. If you go to a house and there's water damage on the ceiling, you could bet your butt that there's a video on YouTube with how to fix that. You can bet there's a ton of blogs. There's going to be a ton of videos. There's going to be a ton of blogs. Look it up. Look it up. Get a very, very, very firm understanding of how to make the fix. Once you want to the point where you feel comfortable doing it yourself, should the time and occasion arise. Once you understand that, then build the estimate. Now, if you're using an estimating software like Xactimate, it's going to be pretty easy because each line item has a description of what that includes. If you understand the process of how to make the repair, find the line items that make that repair and make sure you get every last little bit. If there's a certain process that's excluded in a line item, make sure you have that separate. Include little notes in there explaining what each line item is, why you're putting it in there. Make it so that within reason, that the reader, whether it be the person who's reviewing your work before it makes its way to the carrier, whether it's the claims adjuster that's working at the carrier level, or the policyholder. Make sure that they can read that estimate and fully understand what and how the repairs are going to be made. That is how you make a comprehensive estimate. Once all parties can read it, almost as if it were a how to guide, and they feel completely confident that this estimate gets the job done. And if done properly, you are going to impress everyone along that line. And that is going to also bring you closer to becoming that invaluable asset to an independent insurance adjustment company. That shows competency, and you're competent because you're not guessing. You're competent because you're educated, because you took the time to educate yourself. Now, how do you get better at becoming, at writing estimates? How do you get better at Xactimate? Now, there's a few different schools of thought for this. Many people may just say, you just got to get out there and use it. And I completely agree with that. You have to get out there and constantly use Xactimate. You will learn a lot and build efficiency just through the actual act of using it, 100%. But you also should accelerate that process by getting training from people or a person or a company that is at a higher level than you are. Personally, I could have benefited from this advice. I did not get any great training until years into me being an independent adjuster. I did a short, before I even did anything, I did a short webinar. I think it was like a 2-day thing, months before I ever actually had to use Xactimate. And by the time I had to use Xactimate, it was over. I didn't remember anything. After that, I was self-taught. And don't get me wrong, I learned a lot. Because I was doing multiple large loss estimates very, very early on in my career. So that really helped. I was a part of a program. I was a part of a Hurricane Sandy program where it was a grant program. But a part of that, we had to basically write upwards of 4 large loss estimates. And when I say large loss, I mean estimates that are in the 6-figure range. Sometimes it wouldn't be, but most of the time it was up there. So we had to do 4 of those in a day, and we had to follow certain guidelines. So it was imperative that we found efficient ways to get that job done, because I was getting paid a certain day rate. So it didn't matter if I spent 18 hours to get the job done or 18 minutes. I got paid the same. So I wanted to spend as closer to 18 minutes as I possibly could. So we did that through macros. So in Adjuster University, I have soft training, Xactimate training, and I have a macro that goes with it, because the macro is insanely important. You need to have a macro. I've been using a macro ever since then. I've been using the same macro that I've just made tweaks and tweaks and tweaks for 10 years now. I wouldn't do anything. I could not imagine working at volume and not using a macro. And it's whether you use the macro that we have at Adjuster U or you create your own, you gotta do something, because what that does, that creates a set of line items that are in front of you in every single estimate. And depending on where you are in the country, there's going to be certain materials, basically just different materials that are being used in that geographical area. Whatever that is, you're going to find them in most of the residential homes, most of the commercial buildings. You need to have a macro, which is basically just a sample estimate that has all of those items right in front of you. So not only do you save the time in looking for those items, but you also are reminding your brain of those items. You put the most commonly used ones in there so that they're right in front of you. If you leave it up to your memory and leave it up to your brain to just know how to do things, you're going to make mistakes. Don't put that much trust in yourself. Put trust in something that is fixed. A macro, a sample estimate that's going to be imported into the estimate that you're working on, where you can look at a list of line items and the most commonly used line items, and you can look at which ones you need and then get rid of the rest. That is the most efficient way to make sure that you are not leaving any money on the table, that you are creating an estimate that has every single line item that is justified in that estimate so that the policyholder gets the most amount of money that they possibly can for their loss. You have the highest estimate, and ultimately you get paid the most amount of money for that estimate. That is how you succeed as an independent adjuster. That's how you make the most amount of money as an independent insurance adjuster. And that is how you also work towards becoming that invaluable asset to an independent adjusting firm. So those are our 5 struggle points right there. We went through how to find work. We went through how to write great estimates that are comprehensive, how to get better at Xactimate, how to know how to write for property damage repairs, and how to be an invaluable resource to IA companies and be easily employable. And we got rid of the employable. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Come check us out. We have episodes just like this dedicated to our Facebook group members, and we have estimates, and we have episodes with guests. I encourage everybody to check out all of them and jump on over to facebook.com/successful adjusters. Become a member, even if you aren't an independent insurance adjuster, even if you aren't in the insurance industry. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, come check it out. Go get in the same room as us, see what we're talking about. Drop me a line. Guys, it's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you on the next episode.